Greetings and welcome to a special comparison video from Morrowind Rebirth 4.8. And as many of you know, Transmaster's Morrowind Rebirth is one of the longest running continuously updated overhauls for Morrowind in the community, with new updates coming out every couple of months. And one of the big draws of, Rebirth is, of course, the town overhauls and expansions that Rebirth makes to many of the various cities and settlements of Morrowind. For each new update, Rebirth changes or adds something to each town in the game. But there's something different with Morrowind Rebirth 4.8, and the newest update, Ebonheart, has received a complete and total makeover. And you're probably saying to yourself, but didn't Rebirth already completely change Ebonheart before? And the answer is yes, it did. As far as I know, this is the first time a city that's, already been overhauled by Rebirth has been overhauled and redesigned again. And the two versions of Ebonheart, from Rebirth 4.7 and 4.8, couldn't be any more different. Which is why we're doing this comparison video. Today we're going to be taking a look first at the new Ebonheart found in Rebirth 4.8, and then we're going to compare it to the original city, design found in Rebirth 4.7, so you can see the changes for yourself, and who knows, quite possibly you may prefer, one version over the other. And in any event, you'll find a download link for, Rebirth 4.8 down below. So let's get started here by taking a detailed tour of the newest visual update of Ebonheart in Rebirth 4.8. Now we're going to start off by approaching Ebonheart via the harbour and docks, which has, clearly seen a major makeover. Rebirth has changed the style and appearance of Ebonheart's harbour in almost every update of Rebirth. The docks in 4.6 looked different from the docks in 4.7, which are now totally, alien to the docks that you'll find here in 4.8, as we'll see later on. And perhaps the biggest change with the, latest update to Rebirth is that the docks are now just a lot more cluttered. You have a mix of the old Imperial stone docks and a set of more, creaky-looking wooden platforms with several ships at port. There's also quite a bit of a dock clutter of crates, barrels, and other various containers, just being unloaded from ships and awaiting delivery to storehouses across Ebonheart and Vvardenfell. Now, as we get closer, you'll notice that really pretty much everything about Ebonheart has been changed. It doesn't really have that fortress feel anymore, like it did in previous versions of Morrowind Rebirth. Instead, it feels, more like a frontier or provincial settlement, with more of a town-like vibe. And you'll notice a lot of new buildings here to, just add to that effect. And in 4.8, Rebirth adds one new house, and a couple of new shops, including a smithy and an alchemist, and also an Imperial real estate office. But no, for those curious, Rebirth doesn't add any actual, player homes that you can purchase, at least not yet anyway. According to a Transmaster on the Morrowind Rebirth Discord server, player homes will be coming in a future update, potentially in the 5.0 release, so, that's something to look forward to in the future. But anyway, back to showing off the rest of Ebonheart here. You'll notice that the city here, despite the, added buildings thrown in with version 4.8, feels like it's been just massively scaled back from previous versions, and even from Vanilla Morrowind. And a lot of that has to do with, one, the flattening of the terrain here. Ebonheart in 4.8 is just incredibly flat, losing all of the verticality it had in previous versions and, in Vanilla Morrowind. And two, Rebirth completely gets rid of the second and third courtyards, along with the curtain walls, gates, and towers that could previously be found in Rebirth 4.7 and in Vanilla Morrowind. And now, instead of a series of courtyards and gates to get to Castle Ebonheart, the path to the castle is now pretty much a straight line, with a single bridge connecting the castle to the rest of the town here. And, to be honest, I'm really not sure about this design here. It just doesn't feel very strategic or defensive, especially not compared to Vanilla Morrowind, or even past versions of Morrowind Rebirth. And the just whole layout feels incredibly simplistic, but that's just me. And anyway, approaching Ebonheart from the north here, you'll notice that the moat around Ebonheart has been expanded somewhat, with a simple bridge, leading up to the city gates. And this part, at least, is fairly similar to what Rebirth did in 4.7 and other previous versions of Ebonheart. Not much has changed, really, with the northern approach, but just, jumping over to the southern gates of Ebonheart, you'll see a pretty big change. Back in Rebirth 4.0, and as recently as 4.7, the southern gates of Ebonheart opened up onto a series of small farms that would, in times of a siege, provide a reliable source of food. There were about 3 or so farms before, including shacks and fields, and all that is just now completely gone, replaced with just undeveloped wilderness. And really, this is all part of a pattern I've noticed with Morrowind Rebirth over the past year or so. It really feels like a Transmaster is just scaling back the original size and design of a lot of, settlements and cities in Modern Rebirth. You'll notice this with Seed and Neen, the Vivec Entrance Canton, Ghost Gate, and other settlements. They've all been, just gradually scaled back a bit from past versions of Modern Rebirth. Though I don't think any of them have seen quite as dramatic an overhaul as Ebonheart here, which is, why I wanted to do this comparison video, because the changes are really quite striking. But speaking of comparisons, let's compare this to Ebonheart in Rebirth 4.7, and we're going to start out again with the docks here. Right away, you'll notice a pretty major, difference between 4.8 and 4.7. These docks aren't quite as cluttered, there's no wooden platforms at all. It's all just Imperial stone platforms with room for potentially as many as 3 ships to come to port, though currently there's just the 2 here. And as you can see here, the docks lead straight into the central plaza of Ebonheart, which also acts as a sort of marching grounds, where Imperial troops could potentially, muster for inspection or to march out on a patrol. There's really not quite as much clutter with this version of Ebonheart. Everything looks rather neat and organized, with a drinking well, the Ebonheart statue, and a platform where an Imperial administrator could address an audience along the central part of the plaza here. But there's also, an outdoor smithy, and a number of large piles of crates along the outer courtyard here. But moving on, you'll note right away that this Ebonheart is a lot more like a proper fortress, with, multiple curtain walls, gates, and stairways separating Castle Ebonheart from the rest of town. And indeed, Rebirth 4.7 keeps a mostly vanilla-style layout for the upper part of Ebonheart, merely strengthening the fortifications a bit with new gates and the like. The inner courtyard, in particular, has seen the biggest change from vanilla Morrowind, with a proper training area for Imperial troops, as well as a secondary well for drawing water, which I would imagine could prove rather useful during a siege. There's also a small archery range, and, a number of other bits of detailing as well. And the castle itself sits on a lofty perch, and, this version of Ebonheart is notably not flat, outside of, the docks and the marshalling grounds for the troops and all that. This Ebonheart has a dynamic height, with each section of the fortress at a different height level, which again is, just an ideal design for this type of structure where defensive fortifications are so important. An invading army would have a particularly hard time trying to breach, each layer of defenses with the Ebonheart from 4.7, making the 4.8 version look like a cakewalk in comparison. And that's not to say both designs don't have some merits though, but you have to admit, the feel of each is decidedly different. The Ebonheart from Rebirth 4.8 looks more like a provincial and frontier fortified settlement, clearly built, recently, and showing the relatively new center of Imperial power on Vvardenfell. On the other hand, the Ebonheart from Rebirth 4.7 here looks like a formidable stronghold, already the capital of Imperial influence and power on the island, where the Empire administers the people of Vvardenfell with an iron fist, ready to, repel any assault. Which of these two designs makes more sense, I honestly can't say, though personally I do think I like the 4.7, Ebonheart a bit more than the new 4.8 update, but that's just me. And anyway, as mentioned before, there's a set of farms outside of Ebonheart in 4.7, with a number of, small shacks and fields where you'll find a variety of crops growing, which could, provide a potential food source for the castle if Ebonheart were to come under attack. And otherwise, these farms are really just, kind of scenic, and help to add to the, feel and atmosphere of the SK Isles here. Though again, you won't find them in Rebirth 4.8. But that pretty much wraps up our tour of both Ebonheart in Morrowind Rebirth 4.8 and 4.7. And obviously, there's been some pretty big changes here, but the question remains, what do you think? Do you prefer the newest version of Ebonheart, or did you, like the way the city looked before? Feel free to post your comments below, and of course, if you'd like to make suggestions for future updates of Morrowind Rebirth, or, if you just want to follow the development of Rebirth 4.9, you'll find a link to the Morrowind Rebirth Discord server down below. Transmaster is usually pretty happy to hear any suggestions or feedback you might have, and the Discord server provides a sneak peek at upcoming Rebirth updates. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to leave a like and to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.